Hey, I may not be dressed up like this fella I'm going to be talking about his show, but I'd like to say, hi, neighbor. Prepare yourselves, and because I can't believe it's been 55 years since this came out. You heard me. Let's talk about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood in this TV log right now. This is a Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews TV log. So, greetings, my fellow YouTubers, and to all you neighbors out there. Welcome to Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. My name is Dual, better known to as the Big D, back again with a special TV log that I of a little show that just turned 55 today. I just couldn't believe I didn't know until earlier. So this is why I decided to throw this in at the last minute, considering I was going to take a break. But I decided, what the hey? I mean, I've done Sesame Street for its anniversary. I've done The Electric Company for its anniversary. I've done the original Zoom for its anniversary. So I just said, why not? Let's go for it. Now, before PBS even existed, it was NET. And, well, before Sesame Street even got introduced, this show came out for youngsters to enjoy. And we were taken each weekday into the neighborhood that belonged to, I don't say it belonged to, but that had a certain fella named Fred Rogers. That's right. I'm about to bring to you a great show that has probably become a favorite to everyone, young and old. So now, without further ado, I bring to you Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was a children's television series that really educated a lot of kids. It originally premiered on the NET network before it became PBS on this day, February 19th of 1968. And it featured Fred Rogers. Now, although the Mr. Rogers part was one word at first, but then it changed to this for the rest of its run. It had all sorts of fun stuff, especially a little trip to the neighborhood of make-believe. Now, of course, Fred Rogers was the host and was also the creator of the show. Now, the show originally started out in Canada in 1962 as Mr. Rogers, one word, on the CBC network. In 1966, Rogers moved back to the United States, creating the show we know best as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. On the Eastern Educational Television Network, as it was called EETN, a forerunner of today's American Public Television. The U.S. national debut of the show occurred on this day, February 19, 1968. It aired on ET and its successor PBS until August of 2001. Now, of course, it's well known for its theme song, Won't You Be My Neighbor? It was produced by WQED Television in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, along with Family Communications. Well, it started out with Small World Enterprises for its first 3 years, and then went to Family Communications for the rest of its run. And American Public Television currently distributes the show. The series was aimed primarily at preschool children ages 2 to 5, but it was labeled by PBS as appropriate for all ages. Now, of course, Family Communications was later renamed the Fred Rogers Company after Rogers' death, which I'll get to later. It's been renamed again to Fred Rogers Productions in 2019. And it became the longest running children's show, surpassing Captain Kangaroo, and then Sesame Street surpassed it. Anyway, yep. Let's see. This is kind of. Let me see. Now, the series had its genesis in 1953 when Rogers and Josie Carey joined the newly formed public television station WQED. In 1954, the network debuted The Children's Corner, a program featuring Rogers as puppeteer and composer with Carey as host and lyricist, in an unscripted weekday afternoon live television program. It was this program where many of the puppets, characters, and music used in the later series were developed, such as King Friday the 13th, Daniel Tiger, and X the Owl. It was also the time when Rogers began wearing his famous sneakers, as he found them to be quieter than his work shoes while he was moving about behind the set. It was also briefly broadcast nationally on NBC. Rogers moved to Toronto, Ontario in '61 to work on a new series based on the children's corner called Mr. Rogers, which was one word, a 15-minute program for CBC. Anyway, a number of set pieces after it aired he would take Rogers would take back with him to the U.S., such as the trolley and the castle, which were created for the show, and in collaboration with producer Bruce Attridge. So anyway, yep, really something. Now, in 1966, when Rogers acquired the rights to his program from CBC and moved the show to WQED, where he had worked on the Children's Corner, he renamed the show to Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which initially aired regionally in the northeastern U.S. through EN, including educational stations in Boston, Washington, D.C., and New York City. The 100 episodes of the half-hour show incorporated the neighborhood make-believe segments from the CBC episodes with additional reality-based program, well, not program, opening and closing material produced in Pittsburgh. But the series was canceled in '67 due to a lack of funding, but an outpouring of public response prompted a search for new funding. So in '67, the Sears Roebuck Foundation provided funding, which enabled it to be seen nationwide on national educational television. Taping began in September of 1967 for the first season, and then early the following year, it was shown on there. And then when PBS replaced NET in 1970 and inherited the program. Now, of course, this was such a big show. Anyway, now during each half-hour segment, Roger speaks directly to the viewer about various topics, taking the viewer on tours of factories, demonstrating experiments, crafts, music, and even interacting with his friends. Rogers also made a point to simply behave naturally on camera rather than acting out a character, saying that one of the greatest gifts you can give anybody is the gift of your honest self. I also believe that kids can spot a phony a mile away. The half-hour episodes were punctuated by a puppet segment chronicling occurrences in the neighborhood of make-believe. Another segment of the show consisted of Rogers going to different places around the neighborhood, where he interviews people to talk about their work and other contributions that focused on the episode's themes, such as Brockett's Bakery, Bob Trowell's Workshop, and Negri's Music Shop. In one episode, Rogers took the show behind the scenes on the set of The Incredible Hulk, which was on CBS from 1978 to 1982. Now, at the start of each episode, the show's logo appears as the camera pans slowly over a mile of the neighborhood. As the camera goes from the neighborhood to the inside the Rogers television house. From 1979 to '81, an alternate version of the opening was used. Beginning in the early 1980s, the neighborhood mall incorporated a small version of the neighborhood trolley as it crosses several streets from left to right on a mall train track. This is the same mall electric trolley that later in the program will transport viewers to the neighborhood of make-believe. Usually the camera goes from the neighborhood to out on the porch of the Rogers television house where the viewers can see Mr. Rogers coming for a visit before he enters the house. After the camera goes from the neighborhood to inside of Rogers' television house, Fred Rogers is seen coming home with his jacket on, singing, "Won't you be my neighbor?" He goes into his closet, takes off his jacket, hangs up, and grabs a cardigan zipper sweater to put on. After that, he takes off his dress shoes and grabs a pair of blue sneakers to put on. One of Rogers' sweaters now hangs in the Smithsonian Institution, a testament to the cultural influence of his simple daily ritual. Now, at the end of each episode, he would sing a song called "It's Such a Good Feeling." Now, originally, his closing song was called "Tomorrow," which was used for the first 4 seasons. Well, I mean, maybe 5, sorry, from 68 to 72. Now, when he took off his sneakers, as he says, "You're alive" in a higher toned voice, and grabs his dress shoes to put back on, and then snaps his fingers 2 times. After that, Rogers goes into the closet, takes off his cardigan, hangs it up, grabs his jacket to put it back on. Before the closing credits, Rogers got ready to go out the door by reminding the viewers, "You always make each day a special day. You know how? By just you being you, yourself. There's only one person in the whole world that's like you, and that's you. And people can like you just exactly the way you are." I'll be back next time. Bye bye. And during the closing credits, which is complete with the show's logo and the episode number, the camera would perform a reverse version of the intro. Starting in 1979, episodes were grouped into a week-long series, with each series focused on a particular topic. Each opening includes that week's subject in the form of Mr. Rogers talks about whatever. Well, Rogers' monologues throughout this week explore various facets of the topic, and the ongoing story from the neighborhood make-believe serves as illustration. Now, Rogers covered a broad range of topics over the years, and the series did not shy away from issues that other children's programming avoided. In fact, he endeared himself to many when, on March 23, 1970, he dealt with the death of one of his pet goldfish. The series also dealt with competition, divorce, and even war. Rogers returned to the topic of anger regularly and focused on peaceful ways of dealing with them. Anyway, beginning the 3rd season, Mr. Rogers always made a clear distinction between the realistic world of his television neighborhood and the fantasy world of make-believe. Now, prior to that line, the line was blurred somewhat, as he would often talk about it as if it were real and he had a direct line of contact with the characters in it. He often discussed what was going to happen in make believe before the next fantasy segment was shown. Let's pretend that Prince Tuesday has been having scary dreams, and sometimes acted out bits of make believe with Miles on a table before the camera transitioned to the live action puppet rendition. The miniature motorized trolley, which was known in character form as Trolley, with accompanying fast-paced piano theme music and which was operated by Rogers, working buttons and controls hidden on the side of the bench on which Rogers would usually sit with his left hand, was the only element that appeared regularly in both the realistic world and make-believe. It was used to transport viewers from one realm to the other. Rogers, however, was mentioned from time to time in Make Believe, particularly by Mr. McFeely, who appeared occasionally in the Make Believe segments and seemed to form a link between the two worlds. Mr. McFeely was best known for being the postal carrier for his speed delivery. Yep. The idea of the trolley came from Rogers when he was young. Many trolleys operated in Pittsburgh. He liked riding on them. So that was really something. Let's see. Now, Trolley was a character in its own right. Often, when it crossed into the neighborhood make believe, it would stop to have a conversation with King Friday the 13th by moving back and forth slightly and making bell noises to respond, then continue on. Trolley also truly showed the difference between the worlds during the week when the 3 youngest puppet characters, those being Daniel Striped Tiger, Prince Tuesday, and Platypus, prepared for and went to school for the first time as it played the school bus. Really something. Now, let's see. The series featured Picture Picture, a rear projection motion picture and slide projector whose screen is encased with a picture frame. In early episodes, the Picture Picture would show various films or slides at Mr. Rogers' command. After the material was presented, Rogers would thank Picture Picture, to which it would return a "You're welcome" on its screen. Now, when it wasn't used, though, it would often display the words "hello" or "hi" at the opening. The series was also notable for its use of jazz-inspired music, mostly arranged and performed by Johnny Costa, until his death in 1996 when he was succeeded by Michael Moritz for the remainder of the series. Now, lyrics and melodies were written and sung by Rogers, who created more than 200 original songs for the series. Really something. Now, aside from Mr. Rogers himself, there were numerous characters around. There was Chuck Aber, who played Neighbor Aber, a resident of Westwood who is an associate of Mayor Maggie and does a lot of odd jobs. His real world counterpart also does odd jobs. Next is Betty Aberlin, probably one of the few people I'm mostly recognizable with, playing Lady Aberlin, the niece of King Friday the 13th. Her real world counterpart, Betty, is an actress who is the manager of Betty's Little Theater. Next, Bud Ad, not Adler, Alder. Excuse me, I got too far ahead. A scientist, Alder, a scientist who offers his scientific expertise in the real world and the neighborhood make believe in earlier episodes. There's Charles Apple, a teacher and magician, a friend of Mr. Rogers. Natalie Baker, cousin of Joe Negri, and mother of Angela and Reed, who is a piano playing teacher. Marilyn Barnett, the gym teacher at the neighborhood school. Chef Brockett, played by Don Brockett, the baker who owns Brockett's Bakery. His neighborhood make-believe counterpart sits Edgar Cook in the kitchen. Oh wow, there's so many of these. The list goes on and on. Now, of course, another familiar name I mentioned is Mr. McFeely, David McFeely, played by David Newell, the delivery man for Speed Delivery, who was a frequent visitor in Mr. Rogers' house. And he was named for Fred Rogers' maternal grandfather, as a matter of fact. Joe Negri plays Handyman Negri, a jazz guitarist. And again, there's so many others. Like I said, to me, the list goes on. Now, amongst some of the other characters you've seen in the neighborhood make believe, besides King Friday the 13th and X the Owl and Daniel Striped Tiger, among some of the others that were featured included Henrietta Pussycat and Lena Lane Fairchild, plus Donkey Hoodie, who actually has his own show on PBS Kids as of now. There's also various other characters around. Let's see, Queen Sarah Saturday and Prince Tuesday, Harriet Elizabeth Cow, Anna Platypus. Whew! Again, as I've said before, the list goes on. Seriously. Even so, Mr. Rogers has been referenced many times, even on some other programs. I especially remember his name mentioned on in an episode of The Electric Company. Anyway, the show came to an end after 31 seasons in 2001. However, and that was 2 years before Rogers passed away. And anyway, the show continued to be rerun until maybe the late 2000s. In 2007, the show would get replaced by various other shows. In late 2008, the network would stop broadcasting the show as part of its daily lineup. However, some networks would continue to air the show on Sundays mornings, maybe sometimes Saturdays, as of right now. Now, aside from the Donkey Hoodie series, there was also which was the second spin-off series. The first one was the animated series Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which premiered in September 2012. So anyway, and those shows are still doing that show's doing pretty well. Anyway, now there are a total of 912 episodes produced and aired, including some specials. And believe me, there's too many of those. So anyway, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, exceptionally real good. And now I will tell you something else, that the series has been shown on physical media. And let's see. You can find episodes on various sites. Well, I think you can find a little bit of them. Well, maybe not much on YouTube, but you can find clips of from episodes. But just do your best to try to find it and what have you. But and I do believe there's a website for Mr. Rogers that you can see full episodes. Yeah, you can find them on the MrRogers.org page. That's where you can find some full episodes. Anyway, so anyway, I really do like the show. I mean, I haven't watched it in a long time. I mean, I grew too old. I'm too old for it. I mean, well, I'll still have some love and respect for this show nonetheless. I mean, even though I've gotten to like the original Zoom a whole lot, and I still love the original Electric Company, and I do still have a bit of a soft spot for the classic Sesame Street episodes. Anyway, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood will still and always remain a classic among the many people who grew up with the show. Here, let me give you one glance at Mr. Rogers and some of the puppets. Okay, there you. Oops, sorry. I didn't know that was going to expand. My apologies. There's Mr. Rogers, see King Friday, Queen Sarah, there's Henrietta, there's Trolley, there's X, Daniel, and Lady Elaine. And I thought I'd give you a better look at some of these characters. There's Mr. McFeely right here. Speed delivery. Always love that. And here's a shot of Mr. Rogers with all of the people who are part of his neighborhood. And again, I apologize if I don't give all the names, because there's too many to mention. So anyway, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, still a great show. I know I haven't watched it in ages, but I do know I've still got a soft spot for it. So anyway, I bet a lot of you have seen Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and if you have, tell me what you thought about the show in the comments section below. If you like this video, click the like button, subscribe, and be a part of the Big D Nation. And we'll have another video coming up soon. And if you like this, check out the TV logs I did for these 3 shows that came out after Mr. Rogers was a success. In the upper left-hand corner is the episode on Sesame Street. The upper right-hand corner is the episode on the original Electric Company. And the bottom left-hand corner is the episode on the original Zoom, which has now become the most viewed TV log on Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. And the bottom right-hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe if you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., as well as the TV log. Then I'm your guy. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.